Have you ever wondered why the people who help the most are often the ones who get hurt the deepest? You give with your whole heart. You pull others out of trouble. You carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. And what do you get in return? Thank you slowly disappears, while exhaustion quietly piles up. And one day, you realize something painful. The very people you helped are the ones draining you the most. We're often told that being a good person means helping others. But no one teaches you when to stop. No one tells you that sometimes helping someone isn't love at all. It's interfering with a lesson life is trying to teach them. And what's even more tragic is this. You're burning yourself out just to keep warm people who never learn how to warm themselves. In this video, I want to walk with you into a truth most people avoid facing. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Some people grow weaker the more you help them. The more you rescue them, the deeper they sink. The more you love them, the more they take it for granted. This is not a message telling you to stop helping people. It's a reminder to understand the difference between compassion and self-destructive foolishness. Because without awareness, kindness becomes a double-edged blade. One side cuts you down, the other prevents the other person from ever growing up. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 types of people you should not keep helping or rescuing endlessly. Not so you can hate them, but so you can learn how to love with wisdom, so that your kindness actually helps others awaken, instead of dragging both of you into pain. And if you've always been the one who gives, if you felt worn out from carrying other people's weight, then this video is for you. If this speaks to you, follow the channel now. Because here, each video isn't just words, it's a lived experience. Lessons that help you become clearer, steadier, and more at peace in how you live. When kindness becomes a burden, there's a truth few people dare to look at directly. Not everyone is meant to be saved by you. Many believe helping others is a duty, a moral standard of being a good person. We grow up believing that if we sacrifice enough, if we give enough, love will follow. But life doesn't work that way. I once knew a woman who spent years holding everything together. She paid off debts for her sibling, took care of friends, and sheltered people who did nothing but complain. She would always say, "It's okay. If I can help, I will." But when she was the one who fell into hardship, everyone disappeared. That was when she understood. Kindness placed in the wrong hands eventually turns into a burden. Sometimes we help not just out of love, but out of guilt. We're afraid to say no. We want to be seen as good. We want appreciation, gratitude, and acceptance. Behind generosity, there is often a fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing our value if we're not carrying someone else. And so, without realizing it, we allow people to cross our boundaries, until one day, we no longer have the strength to stand. The truth is, you cannot help someone bypass a lesson they are meant to learn themselves. Someone who is drowning must learn to swim. If you keep pulling them up, both of you sink. The universe has its own way of helping people grow, through friction, through pain, through facing consequences. When you step in and interrupt that process, you're not saving anyone. You're delaying their awakening. Some people need a helping hand. Others need a hard fall. True compassion isn't about saving someone from pain. It's about allowing them to experience the pain they need in order to grow. That is the highest form of love. Love with awareness. If you constantly feel exhausted in the role of the rescuer, stop and ask yourself, am I helping because they truly need it? Or because I'm afraid of losing my worth if I don't? Learning to distinguish real kindness from unconscious self-sacrifice is the first step toward clarity. This week, try saying no at least once. Not out of selfishness, but out of respect for your own energy. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stop. And now, here are those 7 types of people. First, the lazy ones. There is a kind of exhaustion that's hard to name. It comes from constantly doing things for someone who never grows. You help them pay off debt. You fix their problems. You clean up the messes they created. You think you're being kind, but in reality, you're feeding their weakness. Lazy people aren't always lying around doing nothing. Many of them unconsciously choose to give up. They choose the role of the victim. They are good at telling stories of suffering, good at evoking pity, but rarely willing to change. You give them an opportunity. They treat it like an entitlement. You help them up. They sit there waiting for you to lift them again. Over time, they start believing that as long as you're there, effort is optional. I once watched a friend completely burn out after rescuing her younger brother for years, finding him jobs, paying his rent, covering daily expenses. Each time she helped, she told herself, he just needs time to stabilize. But years passed, and that moment never came. He kept complaining, kept blaming circumstances, kept reaching out his hand whenever things got hard, and she slowly lost her vitality, her trust, her faith, and even her own kindness. In nature, a dead branch is cut so the tree can live. A baby bird that won't flap its wings will never be fed again. Nature understands a simple truth. What does not grow on its own will eventually be released. But humans, out of sympathy, forget this law. We cling to lazy souls, believing we're helping, when in truth we're doing life's work for them. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stand still and let them take responsibility for themselves. Someone who refuses to walk will not stand just because you keep pulling. Only when the pain of stagnation becomes unbearable will they move. And you, the one who has saved them countless times, must find the courage to watch them fall without rushing in again. No one learns strength without standing up on their own. No one understands freedom when someone else is always carrying the weight. Every time you do it for them, you steal their chance to become responsible for their own life. Don't let your kindness turn into a soft pillow others sleep on. When you shield someone from the consequences of their actions, you are not helping. You are postponing their growth. The next time someone asks you for help, ask yourself, are they truly trying, or do they want me to carry it for them? If the answer makes you hesitate, take a step back. Sometimes, your silence is the lesson they need most. Second, the ungrateful ones. When kindness is treated like an obligation, almost all of us have felt this pain at least once. You give something from the heart, yet what you receive in return is coldness. No thank you, no look of appreciation. Sometimes, not even silence, just blame. The person receiving doesn't see it as a gift. They see it as something you're supposed to do. Bit by bit, your kindness turns into an obligation. Ungrateful people aren't ungrateful because they don't understand. They're ungrateful because they're used to receiving. They live with the belief that the world owes them something. They don't see your effort. They only see what they still lack. You give them one thing, they ask for two. You give your whole heart. They ask, is that all? I once knew a man who paid his close friend's rent for half a year. He cut back on his own expenses, believing his friend would eventually stand on his own feet, feel grateful, and repay that help with effort. But the moment he stopped, the friend didn't say thank you. He got angry. Angry that he was abandoned at that moment. Angry because he believed the help was supposed to last forever. That was the moment the man understood. Some people don't see kindness. They only see opportunity. The more you give, the more they believe they deserve even more. Eventually, they begin to treat your help as your responsibility. And strangely, the more they receive, the less grateful they become. Because gratitude isn't born from what we get, but from the awareness that we have no right to demand. Ungrateful people are like bottomless wells. No matter how much water you pour in, they never fill. Not because they're thirsty, but because the bottom is broken. And if you keep pouring, you'll be exhausted long before they ever learn appreciation. Don't mistake ingratitude for something harmless. It slowly erodes your trust in people and makes your heart close itself off. But the fault isn't only theirs. Sometimes, you need to ask yourself why you keep choosing to help people who don't appreciate you. Is it because you're seeking validation through kindness? Or because you never learned how to say no? Kindness doesn't need recognition to exist, but it does need to be placed in the right hands, like a seed. It only grows when it falls on fertile soil. If you keep throwing seeds into the desert, don't ask why no flowers bloom. Gratitude is a sign of maturity. Ingratitude is a sign of someone who hasn't awakened yet. Don't let your kindness turn into a debt in someone else's eyes. Learn how to give without losing respect for yourself. If you're helping someone and receiving nothing but silence, don't rush to resent them. Pause. Step back. Observe. Maybe they no longer need help. Maybe they need to face themselves. And if you feel your kindness draining you, remember, sometimes knowing when to stop giving is a form of gratitude toward yourself. Third, the arrogant ones. When ego grows larger than truth, there are people you cannot help, not because they lack the ability to change, but because they believe they don't need to change at all. They may be intelligent, educated, even successful, but inside, they are imprisoned by an invisible cage called me. You speak, they nod, smile, and ignore it. You offer sincere advice. They take it as an insult. There is no way to reach them because their ego outweighs any guidance. I once met a man who appeared extremely confident. He often said, "I already know everything. I don't need anyone to teach me how to live." But the more I observed him, the clearer it became. That wasn't confidence. It was fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being seen as weak. Fear that someone else might be better than him. So he built a wall of pride around himself, and inside that wall, he grew increasingly lonely. No one dared to speak honestly to him anymore. When people only nodded to keep the peace, he thought he was winning. In reality, he was slowly losing his chance to grow. Arrogant people are like those standing on the peak of a mountain, laughing at how small the world looks, forgetting that the higher you stand, the lonelier it becomes. They fear bowing their head, not realizing that lowering it is sometimes the only way to see the path ahead more clearly. Life has its own way of teaching people like this, not through words, but through collision. Sooner or later, reality will force them to stop, and when the truth finally breaks through, they will see that what they once looked down on is exactly what they lacked most. You cannot help someone who has never asked themselves, "What if I'm wrong?" They don't ignore you because you're wrong. They ignore you because they lack the humility to listen. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is remain silent and let life teach them in its own way. Because no one learns humility through lectures. It's learned through falling. True wisdom isn't being right all the time. It's knowing how to listen when you're wrong. Arrogance is a beautiful but suffocating garment. Humility is the open space where the soul expands. If someone dismisses your advice, don't try to prove yourself right. Step back, protect your energy, and if one day you notice yourself becoming defensive, pause and ask, "Am I afraid of being wrong?" Because sometimes, admitting you don't know is the first step toward wisdom. Fourth, the malicious ones. When kindness is exploited, not everyone is innocent. There are people who don't need healing, they need to be stopped. We live in a time where everyone talks about understanding, about how everyone has reasons for their pain. But there is a thin line between compassion and naivety. Not everyone who does harm is wounded. Some people do harm simply because they choose to. I once knew a woman who was kind beyond reason. She became involved with a man with a dark past, someone seen as pitiful, and she believed she could change him. She thought that if her love were strong enough, he would become different. But every time she forgave him, his actions became worse. Every time she rescued him, he sank deeper, until she lost nearly everything: her money, her trust, and even her self-respect. She realized it too late. She wasn't helping a good person return to who they were. She was enabling a harmful person to live more comfortably with their cruelty. Malicious people are not the same as weak people. They know exactly what they're doing. They lie, manipulate, and exploit compassion to hide their true intentions. When you help them, you are not being kind. You are becoming a tool for them to harm others. Compassion without wisdom can be more dangerous than cruelty itself. Life operates on balance. When you rescue someone who is actively causing harm, you indirectly wound innocent people. It's like pouring clean water into a poisoned river. It doesn't heal it. It only spreads the destruction further. Kindness doesn't mean opening the door to everyone. Some doors must be closed, because on the other side isn't someone suffering, but someone using your compassion to sustain their wrongdoing. Not everyone who cries is a victim. Not everyone who appears weak deserves your help. Some cry out of remorse. Others cry only to soften your heart again. Helping a malicious person doesn't save them. It allows them to continue living peacefully inside their wrongdoing. Sometimes, the most humane thing you can do is walk away and let them face the consequences they've been avoiding. Not because you're cold, but because you respect cause and effect. Compassion doesn't mean letting others trample over you. Love does not equal enabling. A truly conscious person knows when to stop, so that harm must finally take responsibility for itself. When someone makes you feel pity, don't rush to save them. Observe whether they truly want to change, or simply want to exploit your trust. If the answer weighs heavily on your heart, walk away in silence, because sometimes refusal is a greater act of kindness than continuing to love in the wrong way. Fifth, the foolish ones. You cannot save someone from their own stubbornness. There is a type of person more exhausting than the malicious, the one who repeats the same mistake over and over. You've spoken, you've warned, you've pulled them up dozens of times. They cry, they apologize, they promise to change, and then they return to the same path. Each time, you forgive, you believe again, you hope again, until one day you realize you're no longer helping them. You're ensuring their recklessness. Foolish people aren't unintelligent. They simply refuse to learn. They believe this time will be different, even when nothing has changed. They run into the same wall again and again, and when it hurts, they blame life. They don't see the connection between action and consequence, because in their mind, fault always belongs to someone else. I once had a friend like this. She loved a man who betrayed her repeatedly. Every time they broke up, she said, "He's truly sorry this time. It will be different." Each time she fell, I was there to comfort her, to help her stand again, until one day I realized it wasn't that she didn't understand. She wasn't ready to understand. She was afraid of being abandoned, so she returned to what hurt her. And at that point, no advice mattered anymore. Foolish people are like someone drowning in the ocean. You throw them a lifebuoy. They see it, but they don't grab it. They want to be saved, but they don't want to swim. They scream for help, and when you swim toward them, they cling to you and pull you under. That's why some relationships exhaust you completely, yet go nowhere. You're trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. No one can help a person who remains loyal to their own suffering. Until they hit the bottom of their pain, they will repeat the cycle. And when you keep intervening, you block the lesson life is trying to teach them. Some people must feel abandoned before they learn to stand. Some hearts must break again and again before they awaken. Sometimes, real love means stepping back and letting them face the consequences, without you cushioning the fall. Only when no one rescues them anymore do they finally see who truly needs saving: themselves. You cannot pull someone out of darkness if they still choose to stay there. Not everyone who hurts wants to heal. Not everyone who falls wants to rise. Let life do its work. Save your energy for those who value the light. If you're helping someone and everything keeps repeating the same way, stop. Don't try to change them with words. Let silence and consequence teach what you cannot. And remember, sometimes your step back is exactly what allows them to step forward. Sixth, the manipulators. They don't need your help. They want you to willingly give them your energy. Of all the people you've tried to help, the manipulator is often the one who drains you the most. They never ask directly, yet somehow you give everything. They don't demand. They don't order. They don't force. They complain. They suffer. They make you feel guilty for not helping. Little by little, they take your energy using your own kindness. Manipulators understand human psychology well. They know who is soft-hearted, who fears disappointing others, who needs to be seen as good. They target that quietly, never aggressively, but subtly. A gentle word, a sad look, a heartbreaking story, and suddenly, your defenses begin to fall. You feel sorry for them. You think helping just a little won't hurt, but one time becomes another, and eventually, you realize you've become their main source of survival. I once knew a woman like this. She always made others feel sorry for her. Whenever something happened, she spoke with a trembling voice about how badly someone treated her, how she had no one else but you. Friends helped again and again, but whenever a new person appeared, she told the same story, only changing the listener's name. Anyone who tried to leave became a traitor. She didn't need help, she needed attention, and she was willing to use pain as currency to keep people close. The most dangerous manipulator is the one who convinces you that if you leave, you're the bad person. They're so skillful that you feel guilty just for thinking about yourself. That is the sweetest trap of all, because they don't take from you by force. They take pity. You won't realize you're being drained until you wake up exhausted, mentally scattered, emotionally heavy. Your kindness turned into a burden. That's when you understand. You weren't helping someone weak. You were feeding an emotional parasite. They live off others' energy, and you become their supply. To escape them, you cannot argue. You cannot explain. Every explanation only gives them more material to play the victim. The only way out is quiet withdrawal. No anger, no accusations, just stepping out of the loop. When you leave, they will find someone else, because that's how they survive. Not everyone who makes you feel pity deserves your help. There are people who aren't looking for salvation. They're just looking for something to cling to. Kindness only becomes light when you know where to direct it. If someone leaves you feeling drained after every conversation, pause and ask yourself, do they truly need help, or are they feeding off my energy? If the answer makes you go quiet inside, trust that feeling, because sometimes cutting ties is the only way for both people to be free. 7th, the unrepentant rebel, when you have to let go so they can finally face themselves. There are people who don't need help anymore. They need to be left alone so they can fall. You've advised them enough. Show them every path. Taught them how to avoid their mistakes. They listened. They nodded. They promised to change. And then everything stayed the same. Each time they stumble, they return to you with the same old tears. And slowly, you become the one paying the price for the stubbornness they choose. The unrepentant rebel is not foolish. They know what's right. They just refuse to do it. They may be intelligent, experienced, but inside them lives a strange pride. They fear others being right. They repeat the same mistakes simply to prove they have the freedom to choose, even when that choice leads straight into destruction. I once knew a young man like this. He knew exactly that the path he was on would destroy everything. His career, his family, his friendships. Everyone warned him, but he kept going, telling himself he was in control. Only after he lost everything did he sit in silence for a long time and finally say, "Now I understand. Some lessons only arrive when no one is left to warn you." That sentence stayed with me, because some people can only learn by colliding hard with life. You cannot save someone who has chosen the wrong path. Every time you pull them out, they return to their own self-destruction. Like an addict returning to the same dose, the more you help, the more you're pulled into their cycle, where they are always the victim, and you are the one slowly breaking down. Love placed in the wrong place becomes a rope, binding both people in suffering. Letting go here is not abandonment. It is returning responsibility to where it belongs. Only when they face the consequences of their own actions do they truly see themselves. As long as you keep shielding them, they see only you, and continue leaning on you to avoid reality. Some people must lose the one who always saved them, before they learn how to stand on their own. And painful as it is, that loss may be the most necessary moment of their awakening. No one can awaken while choosing to stay inside their own illusion. Rebellion only becomes a lesson when responsibility is finally accepted. Sometimes, the deepest way to help is to stop at the right moment, so they can finally hear their own inner alarm. If you're trying to change someone but they keep returning to the same patterns, step back. Don't argue. Don't prove anything. Be silent. Let time teach what words never could, because in the end, some souls only grow when there is no one left to save them. Wisdom within compassion. Loving with compassion must walk hand in hand with wisdom. We often think compassion means giving without limits, but giving without awareness of who we're giving to is no longer love. It's blindness. Some people carry beautiful hearts, but because they don't know how to protect them, those hearts are slowly draining dry. They love without discernment, help without reflection, and one day, all that remains is exhaustion and bitterness. I once met a nurse who devoted herself completely to caring for patients. She told me that some people, even after being saved, still cursed, demanded, and weaponized gratitude. She cried, feeling wronged, wondering why doing good only brought pain. One day, an older doctor said to her, "Kindness can't save everyone, especially those who aren't ready to receive it. Your job isn't to save everyone. It's to recognize who truly wants to live." That sentence changed her, and it stayed with me. Compassion isn't running toward every cry for help. It's the ability to look deeply, to distinguish who is genuinely trying, and who is simply clinging to kindness to escape their own life. Loving with wisdom means knowing when to come close and when to step back. That isn't coldness. It's respect for each soul's path of growth. The world doesn't need more rescuers. It needs people who understand their own boundaries. Because only when you stop at the right time does kindness remain strong enough to reach where it truly belongs. To love someone also means seeing where they are in their journey. Some need a hand, some need a fall, some need advice. Others need silence to hear their own truth. True compassion isn't measured by how many people you save, but by your ability to see where your giving truly belongs. Loving with wisdom means choosing, preserving, and knowing when to leave. Sometimes, the deepest form of love is standing still while another faces their own lesson. Today, look at the relationships around you. Who truly needs your companionship and who is leaning on you to avoid growing up? Have the courage to cut away what wastes your kindness, because only when you protect your energy can you love with clarity. Letting go can be an act of love. Some relationships don't end in anger, they end in awakening. One day, you realize you no longer feel the urge to save anyone. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to carry. You're not cold, you've simply understood. Love isn't always about staying. Sometimes, the deepest love is having the courage to leave. Letting go isn't abandonment. It's recognizing that the other person must face themselves and that you must return to yourself. It's when you stop proving your goodness through exhaustion, when you understand that every soul has its own path and you cannot walk it for them, not even a step. I once watched a mother, after years of spoiling her child, stand helplessly as that child fell apart. She didn't cry from anger, but from clarity. She said, "If I keep saving him, he'll never learn to save himself." The words were soft, but heavy with a lifetime of truth, because real love doesn't hold on. It gives space for someone to rise on their own. We often think love means holding tight, but love is allowing space to grow. A field only blooms when seeds are buried in the soil, not when you keep them in your hand. Some people can only rediscover their light after passing through their own darkness. And sometimes, your role is simply to light the lamp and quietly walk away. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you're mature enough to love without control, to care without clinging. When you can watch someone leave and still wish them peace, that's when you're loving the right way. Loving someone doesn't mean staying to carry all their pain. Loving wisely means stepping back and allowing them to learn life's lessons on their own. Letting go doesn't make you smaller. It makes you clear and free. Think of someone you're trying to fix, save, or hold on to. Tonight, whisper to yourself, I let go, not because I stopped caring, but because I trust they will find their own way. Take a deep breath. Let your heart feel a little lighter. If today you stop helping, stop rescuing, stop holding on, can you trust that life will teach them in ways you never could? If this part reflected something in you, leave a comment sharing what you realized. Have you ever had to let someone go so they could grow? Tell your story. It may be the light someone else needs. And don't forget to follow the channel so we can continue exploring lessons that teach us how to love without losing ourselves.